they put it up, but it's a little bit past heading towards Aurora. If you're on Colfax, it's a little bit past once you pass Colorado Boulevard. It's a little down the road on the right-hand side.
Red and white logo, and they have a sign on the side.
It basically says Tacos y Pupusas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't been there in a long time, but I was thinking about it the other day, and the pupusas there are fantastic. I mean, their tacos are great, but I mainly go there for the pupusas.
I like that call. That's a really good spot. And I oftentimes feel like once you get out that way, it's all very like authentically foreign foods, and so like you get some of the better gems in the city are out there, and it may technically be Aurora, but you can go as far. Obviously the road goes from fucking Golden to Federal. So
and the pupusas are filling, and they
Aurora.
aren't. I mean, I can't remember last time I was there, but maybe in anywhere between like $2 and $3 a pop. So you get a couple of those, you're going to be stuffed.
All right. I like that call. And I like that you went exotic on flavors, because I'm doing the exact opposite. We talk a big game about how we love Waffle House and this and that. Well, because you can't get a true Waffle House in the city, the closest thing we have is located on Federal Boulevard. And you know what that is? That's McCoy's Restaurant right there off I-70. It's a family diner that's at 70 and I-Federal. So it's right there off the interstate. You can see it when you're driving towards the mountains. It's on your side right there. It's great breakfast food, big-ass portions of everything. And the people there are like, it's heavy people watching, but kind of more in the Squire Lounge. It's not like sexy people watching like you're at Paris Fashion Week. This is like people rolling in with their oxygen masks and a cigarette lit at the same time. It's that kind of crowd, Chris. And sometimes it's like when Lloyd and Harry go into that diner and they just like to fuck with, a round of the Boilermakers. That's the crowd we're talking about. And I'm not mad about it. There's a similar style location on Colfax. That little diner that's in the shiny like trailer that's on the side of the road, Chuck Wagon or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very similar in that vibe and that food, but everything's like $6.
So I'm thinking like big ass breakfast burritos.
Yeah, it's huge fucking food. Like you get home fries with 7 eggs and like 12 pieces of bacon. Like it's where diabetes starts in Colorado.
Love that.
And it's fucking delicious. Yeah, it's Sugarfoot written all over it. The crowd is suspect, and that's what makes me so excited. I love it. And so that's going to be my cheap eats. It's McCoy's Family Diner, and they're open. I think they're open 24 hours. Still, they have that same musty smell of carpet. They tried to do a little renovation, but it still looks authentically 1964 in there.
Nice.
So, but everyone's welcome. Everyone can sit in the front. It's not totally 1964. All right. So my next location, we're going to do this one. Shout out to our friends over at Callie's as well as our friends at Seed and Smith. But neither of them are located on one of our hot streets. So we're going to do favorite weed shops on our respected roads. And I'm going to go with our former guest as well, the Diego Pellicer group. We had a blast hanging out with them when they did the episode back in season 2. I know they're a hoot and a holler. Riley's a cool cat, big golf fans. But they also run a fantastic operation. It's right there at the corner of Alameda and Federal. It's a little bit more of the higher-end cannabis shops, but they're very informative. So if you are a little discouraged about shopping or don't know your way around the store or what you may be looking for, if you don't know what the fuck a terpene profile is, don't worry about it. This crew's got you. They're great folks. It's probably my favorite locations between them and Lucy's Sky as my 2 spots on Federals. But I had to go with the former guests on the podcast show. A little love to them. Check out Diego Pellicer. They also have Dank Ass Flower.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my weed shop. What's your weed shop, Chris, for the high five?
I'm going to say the one I go to most, and it's convenience, like to where, our home base is. I'm going to go with just the clinic on Colfax.
Yeah. The one past Colorado is the one you're speaking about?
Yeah, exactly. It's right there toward Aurora on the left-hand side. But, they have really good weekly specials, and I want to say I'm a big fan of going on Sundays, I think they have a nice edible kind of deal going on there, like maybe 20% off or something like that. But that's a shop that's a quick and easy spot. They have good flour. They've got a pretty decent selection, so it's one
and
of
that's
those in the
rec as
neighborhood.
well. It's not just medicinal. So despite the name, the clinic, and all of that jazz, most of their locations across the city are now have gone rec. So for those that are curious, they do mainly sell most of their products in regards to, I think they call them the bank or the cash or what, they all kind of themed.
Oh yeah, they have their own cartridges, things like that.
Yeah, but they do have some solid product, and then they do have, like you were saying, great deals of the day. So
yeah, and they opened up that shop in Lakewood.
Yeah,
that
so for
went rec.
So, yeah. And so in our next segment after this, we're going to talk a little bit about Lakewood. So we'll put a pin in that. But yeah, shout out to the friends over at the clinic and off of Wadsworth. They went rec. All right, Chris, the last point. This is the pinky of the day. The high five, top five. Give me your brewery of choice.
All right, there's a few actually popping up. I mean, there's a few that have been here in Colfax. There's some new ones. But right now, I'm going to say the one I want to visit again next is Fiction Beer Company.
Where's that?
So it's, again, we're going on the other side of Colorado, headed towards Aurora. It's at the base of like an apartment complex, just a few miles past Colorado Boulevard. But it's great. They got a nice little patio. They usually, I'm not sure if they do now, but they usually have like one of those old-timey popcorn machines where you can get free popcorn.
Okay.
Popcorn and beer are great. But yeah, their beer is exceptional. They do everything from hazy IPAs, pale ale, and they're kind of on this literature kick. So most of their beers are named after like literary characters or things like that.
And they're nerds?
Yeah.
They're nerds? Cool. Nice.
But no, it's great beer. If you haven't checked them out, swing down there. They sell cans at the store and stuff. So it's a great choice.
I love it. All right, and so most of our friends know that I'm not a real brew guy, but at the same time, I respect the craft. I understand that it takes a lot into it to be able to be successful, especially in such a saturated market such as Colorado. And this one has been around for a while, and I've actually enjoyed it for a multitude of reasons, whether it be they pair delicious food trucks with them, they have fun active drinking like board games or trivia nights, but they've also done well in Great American Beer Fest, and they've got the test of time and they're on their side as well. And that's Little Man Brewery. Or Little Machine, Little Machine. Not Little Man, sorry, Ice Cream. Yeah, Little Machine Brewery. They're right there kind of off the stadium's path at like 20th, right in front of the stadium, so to speak. Right there, tucked right in front of obviously the federal side of the stadium. When you're looking at downtown, you can kind of sit on their patio if you wanted to, but they have a nice little patio outside so you can have the dog tied up. They have food trucks, and then they have a real cool inner bar that's like the big circle, so you can people watching there and play games and stuff like that. It's a great place to, if you just want to dip in for a happy hour cocktail or a happy hour beer, or if it's date one, just to kind of break the ice. There's usually a table available. Like I mentioned, food trucks, and then active drinking. They have games and everything you can play. So that's my jam. I think they've also placed well in Great American Beer Fest in years past.
Yeah.
And they used to be just down the street, so I fucks with them.
Nothing like a little liquid encouragement on one of those beginner dates.
Yes, sir. That definitely helps.
But that place is great, and I haven't been there in forever, so I'll make it a note.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, that ends our first ever High Five, brought to you by Seed & Smith. If you want to get high, might I recommend checking out Seed & Smith. They have their flour and their products are sold across the city, and you can check them out at seedandsmith.com. But they are super fired up about their new location. Grand opening is Saturday. Technically, you can get in there this week if you want to. 1413 Halleck Way in Louisville. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, so this is the last segment before we go into our interview with Benny and Paul. I just want to give a quick update for those that maybe saw us in the newspaper, saw us in a magazine, started listening or following along on social media. Tell them a little bit about what you're doing, Chris, who you are. Obviously, you used to work in the restaurant industry, but you've recently taken a new job. Give everyone a little update on what's going on in CB's world.
Yeah, so I guess, let's see, this past week was week number 1 of my new job, working with the city of Lakewood. So I'm going to be working with their, like, arts and culture, parks and rec, various divisions of the city to kind of help them get funding for certain projects and initiatives. So I'm learning a lot about Lakewood, which is actually, we don't really realize, like, it's our kind of city neighbor, and it's really large, and they've got cool things going on from arts and culture, festivals, little things like that. And there's great restaurants over there that I will need to explore. So, we can talk to people who might live out in Lakewood.
Yeah, so if you're a restaurant owner or a proprietor out in the burbs, like we were talking about Louisville, and we were just talking about Aurora and Inglewood, we're going to try to clip a little more neighborhood battles. We're going to try to spread our wings a little bit, because as our demo kind of grows into the suburbs where a lot of folks are hanging out, living, shout out, I'm in fucking Old Town Arvada all the time, so we're going to try to kind of highlight those businesses. They've been grinding along as well. So I'm excited to have you out there, because we're going to do some neighborhood battles for the high five as well.
Yeah, and what's that shit? I remember it last week. What's the pizza joint out there?
Pizzeria Louis.
Yeah. So yeah. I plan on trying that within the next couple of weeks. So you'll see that on social media maybe or something like that. But yeah, if you know of any places in Lakewood I should hit up on a lunch break, fucking let us know.
Yeah, Chris needs all the tips. If you know of a good blue plate, we're Southerners, but if you know something that's under $10 or something that's really quick, we've asked all of our guests about it, but we usually talk about Denver proper. We're going to spread our wings. We're going to do some Burby and stuff here in season 3, but we're also going to do some video content. Chris was talking about the new job. We're going to do some new jobs for this. We're going to take Jeff Farberg, our dear friend of the podcast. He's hooked us up in the past with production work. He's going to join us as a fantastic photographer. We're going to do we're going to do some content in some cannabis industries. Obviously, Instagram is very hush-hush about it. So our YouTube page and our TikTok, we're about to start doing a lot more fun stuff from behind the scenes in the restaurant and in the cannabis worlds, but also in like brewery worlds. But we're going to do some fun shit. We have videos coming down the pike we're really excited about. We were in talks, and we may still do some work with Rooster Magazine. For those that know, they're based out of Boulder. We had kind of been in conversations with them to figure out exactly, what would be a proper fit for everybody. And while we don't know exactly what it is right now, we will definitely be doing our podcast on location at their THC Classic in 2022 when that returns to normalcy. We'll try to do some dinner series and things of that nature. We're going to start highlighting some restaurants, or restaurateurs that are working in the cannabis space as well. So we're going to use our platform, the podcast, our YouTube page, which we're getting ramped up. Get ready. We're going to start doing video shit over there. We're going to start using that. We're going to start doing it legit. And so that's what Season 3 is about. Season 3, we're going to have some great new guests. Businesses that we haven't spoken about are too. We're going to stretch our wings into the video aspects as well. But we're also going to bring you all these little highlights and segments before the guest interviews. So think of it a little more, pardon my take, structured rather than the guest being with us the whole episode, so you may miss on some of the things you see on our social media. The last thing that we're going to do on these little segments, we're going to do 30 and 30 usually, but the podcast goes long, whatever, is we're going to talk about concerts and things that we're excited about. And so on Thursday's episode, we have guest Nishant Reddy from a Golden State talking with us about cannabis, how the government's having to prop up their whole system, whereas ours is flourishing. We're going to talk a little bit more about the differences between those, but we're also going to give you all a rundown on what we're doing for the rest of the weekend and talk a little bit about the restaurants that have opened and places we've hit. So without further ado, our guest of the week, Benny and Paul, coming at you now. Thanks to our friends over at Callie's Cannabis and Seed and Smith. Kicking off season 3 today with some excellent guests. I'm going to call them dear friends, but they're also some of the most bubbly and personally fun humans I've had the pleasure of getting to know through this podcast, whatever the fuck we call life. But it's going to be a great episode. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We love our friends over at Callie's. We were talking about it earlier. We're puffing on their flower as we speak. Callie's Cannabis is our go-to. They have killer deals every day of the week, a fantastic rewards program, and something for everybody, whether it be flower if you're looking for high top shelf stuff, they've got you there. If you wanted something quick and out the door, $25 vape cart, they got you there. So anything you need, check them out. They have 3 locations across the metro. They have one at 8th and Kenosha Court. They have the one, like I mentioned, 31st and Larimer. And then they have one for the Burbians up north in North Glen. They've got you covered. Check them out. Use Google like anybody else. Use Weed Maps, whatever. But let's get the show on the road. Chris, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So our guest today, we have Benny Bloom, Grammy award-winning musician, Denver resident now, member of Lettuce Funk, and one of the many proprietors of this great, and I think what I would say is the wine distribution company that's taken over the Denver scene. We've seen them everywhere, Benny and Zoid. How are you today, Benny?
I'm fabulous. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Dude, I appreciate you being here. I really do. But it's not just